Do you remember those hearty soups and stews your grandparents made? The ones that could warm a chilly autumn kitchen and fill every belly at the table? These weren't just meals, they were lessons in resourcefulness, turning simple, affordable ingredients into comfort that lasted for days. Back then, farmers and families relied on slow-cooked pots of beans, meats, and vegetables to get through long fall evenings. And every summer told a story of care and creativity. Let's revisit these forgotten autumn classics and see how they once kept homes cozy, bellies full, and spirits high. Beef and barley soup, the hearty farmhouse classic. Beef and barley soup was a staple of 1970s farm kitchens, a meal that filled bellies, warmed hands, and carried the aroma of home throughout the house. Thick chunks of beef, slowly simmered until tender, mingled with earthy vegetables like carrots, celery, and onions, while nutty barley added substance, making every spoonful a comforting, sustaining bite. It wasn't a dish of extravagance, it was a dish of necessity, born from the desire to stretch simple ingredients into something nourishing and satisfying after long days of work in the fields or around the farm. This soup thrived on frugality and ingenuity. Cheaper cuts of beef, simmered low and slow, transformed into tender morsels, and pantry staples like barley, potatoes, and canned tomatoes extended the meal to feed a hungry family. Seasonings were simple: salt, pepper, perhaps a bay leaf or a sprinkle of thyme. But they highlighted the natural flavors rather than masking them. Families cherished this soup not just for its taste, but for its reliability. It could simmer unattended while chores were completed, the aroma itself signaling that warmth and sustenance were on the way. Beyond practicality, beef and barley soup carried memory and connection. The bubbling pot on the stove, the steam curling into the kitchen air, and the clinking of spoons in deep bowls created a rhythm of comfort and community. Children leaned over the edge of the table to sneak a taste, and parents knew the meal provided both nutrition and reassurance, a reminder that simple, honest cooking could feed both body and soul. Today, modern kitchens might swap fresh herbs or add a slow cooker twist, but the essence remains timeless. Beef and barley soup is a testament to frugality, patience, and care. A dish that proves hearty, wholesome meals need not be complicated to leave a lasting impression. Chicken and dumplings, the cozy comfort classic. Chicken and dumplings was a cornerstone of 1970s home cooking, a dish that embodied warmth, simplicity, and the kind of comfort only a slow-cooked meal could deliver. Tender pieces of chicken simmered in a rich, savory broth with onions, carrots, and celery, while soft, pillowy dumplings floated on top, absorbing the flavors and adding a hearty, filling touch that could satisfy an entire family. It wasn't glamorous, but it was reliable. A meal that promised both sustenance and the kind of cozy familiarity that made a house feel like home. This dish thrived on frugality and creativity. Leftover chicken or less expensive cuts could be transformed into a feast, while simple pantry staples, flour, milk, butter, became dumplings that stretched the meal further. Seasonings were modest, often just salt, pepper, and a bay leaf, but the slow cooking allowed every ingredient to shine. Families could prepare it in one pot, letting it bubble gently while chores were completed or children played nearby, filling the kitchen with an aroma that drew everyone to the table. Chicken and dumplings carried more than flavor. It carried tradition and memory. It was a dish for gatherings, for chilly evenings, for those moments when a hot meal meant more than just feeding the body. Children learned to anticipate the dumplings rising to the surface, Adults appreciated the resourcefulness required, and everyone enjoyed the satisfying, tender combination of chicken and doughy goodness. Today, recipes may be modernized with store-bought biscuits or pressure cookers, but the essence remains unchanged. Chicken and dumplings is more than a dish. It's a symbol of care, patience, and comfort. A timeless reminder that the simplest ingredients, cooked with love and attention, can create a meal that nourishes both heart and soul. Liver and onion stew, the bold, nutritious classic. Liver and onions stew was a staple of 1970s kitchens, a dish that might raise eyebrows today, but carried both flavor and nutrition for families who valued economy and sustenance. Tender slices of liver, gently seared and simmered with caramelized onions, created a rich, earthy stew that delivered iron, vitamins, and hearty satisfaction in every bite. This wasn't a dish designed to impress on the surface. It was built to nourish, to stretch simple ingredients, and to provide warmth and sustenance during chilly autumn evenings. The beauty of liver and onion stew lay in its simplicity and resourcefulness. Cheaper cuts of liver, often from beef or pork, could be transformed into a tender centerpiece when handled with care, while pantry staples like onions, butter, and a dash of seasoning elevated the flavors without straining a household budget. Slow simmering allowed the ingredients to meld into a rich, aromatic broth that filled the kitchen with an unmistakable scent of home-cooked comfort. Beyond practicality, this stew carried deep connections to family and tradition. Parents and grandparents often grew up eating liver in leaner times, passing down techniques and seasoning preferences, while children learned to appreciate its bold flavor. The act of preparing and sharing the meal reinforced both resourcefulness and togetherness, reminding families that the value of a dish lay as much in care and attention as in taste. Today, liver and onion stew is rare on modern tables, but its legacy endures. It's a reminder that hearty, nourishing meals can be crafted from humble ingredients, and that comfort food is often defined not by glamour, but by flavor, sustenance, and the memories it creates. This stew stands as a testament to practical cooking, historical frugality, and the enduring power of home-cooked meals. Shepherd's pie soup, the cozy twist on a classic. Shepherd's pie soup was a creative 1970s spin on a beloved comfort dish, turning the hearty flavors of shepherd's pie into a warm, spoonable stew perfect for autumn evenings. Ground beef or lamb simmered with onions, carrots, and peas in a savory broth, while small pillows of mashed potatoes or biscuit-like dumplings floated atop, echoing the traditional pie topping. It wasn't just a meal. It was a clever way to stretch ingredients, satisfy a family, and serve up the familiar flavors everyone loved, all in one warming bowl. This soup thrived on practicality and thrift. Leftover meat, pantry staples, and a handful of root vegetables could be transformed into a dish that fed more mouths than a standard shepherd's pie might, while simmering slowly on the stove. Seasonings were simple yet effective. Salt, pepper, maybe a dash of Worcestershire or herbs, letting the natural flavors shine through. Families could prepare it in a single pot, allowing it to bubble gently while chores or homework were done, filling the kitchen with aromas that promised comfort and sustenance. Beyond its frugality, shepherd's pie soup carried nostalgia and connection. It represented inventive home cooking, the kind that turned what was on hand into a memorable meal. Children were drawn to the creamy potato toppings, while adults appreciated the balance of flavors and the efficiency of one-pot cooking. It was a dish that spoke to warmth, family, and the comforting rhythm of mealtime in the 1970s. Today, modern cooks might elevate it with fresh herbs or a slow cooker version, but the essence remains unchanged. Shepherd's pie soup is proof that comfort doesn't require fuss, that simplicity can be satisfying, and that turning a classic into a soup can create a dish that warms both body and heart. Neckbone stew, the hearty, humble classic. Neckbone stew was a beloved 1970s comfort dish, a meal built on thrift, patience, and bold, soulful flavors. Meaty pork or beef neck bones simmered slowly with onions, carrots, potatoes, and a medley of seasonings, creating a rich, gelatinous broth that filled kitchens with a savory aroma promising warmth and sustenance. It wasn't glamorous, but it was dependable. An economical dish that stretched inexpensive cuts into a satisfying, family-sized meal that could feed both body and spirit on crisp autumn evenings. The magic of neckbone stew lay in its resourcefulness. Tough, inexpensive cuts transformed into tender, flavorful meat through hours of slow cooking, while pantry staples and seasonal vegetables bulked out the stew. Simple seasonings, salt, pepper, a bay leaf, maybe a splash of vinegar, enhanced the natural flavors without overwhelming them. Families learned to balance patience with flavor, tending the simmering pot while chores were done, letting the stew work its slow, comforting magic. Beyond sustenance, neckbone stew carried nostalgia and family memory. It was a dish that symbolized ingenuity and resilience, teaching children the value of humble ingredients and the satisfaction of a home-cooked meal. Grandparents often recalled making it during leaner times, while parents appreciated how it brought everyone to the table, a ritual of warmth and togetherness. Today, neckbone stew is rarely found on modern weeknight menus, replaced by faster, more convenient options. Yet its legacy endures as a reminder that the simplest, most frugal ingredients, treated with care and patience, can produce a meal that nourishes both body and soul. It's a dish rooted in history, flavor, and the enduring comfort of home-cooked meals. Hobo stew. Hobo stew, the rustic no-frills classic. Hobo stew was a quintessential 1970s comfort dish born from frugality, practicality, and the desire to stretch every ingredient into a nourishing meal. This humble stew combined inexpensive cuts of beef or pork, potatoes, carrots, onions, and whatever vegetables were on hand simmered slowly to create a thick, hearty broth that filled the kitchen with a smell of warmth and sustenance. It wasn't a dish meant to impress. It was a dish meant to feed, to comfort, and to make the most of what a family had on hand during the cooler months when hearty meals were a necessity. The beauty of hobo stew lay in its simplicity and adaptability. No precise recipe was required. Farmhouse cooks learned to toss in leftover meat, root vegetables, and pantry staples, letting the pot bubble gently on the stove for hours. Seasonings were straightforward: salt, pepper, maybe a bay leaf or a touch of herbs, allowing the natural flavors of the ingredients to meld into a rich, savory concoction. It was a dish that rewarded patience, simmering slowly while chores were done or children played nearby, producing a meal that nourished both body and spirit. Beyond practicality, hobo stew carried nostalgia and familial connection. It was the kind of meal that brought people together around a steaming pot on the stove, where the rhythm of serving and sharing reinforced community and care. Children learned to appreciate humble ingredients, while adults took pride in feeding a family with limited resources yet abundant love. Today, hobo stew may have faded from modern menus, replaced by faster or more specialized dishes, but it endures as a testament to resourcefulness, comfort, and the enduring power of a warm, home-cooked meal. It reminds us that some of the most satisfying dishes are born from necessity, patience, and a bit of creative thinking. Ham hock and beans, the savory, soulful classic. Ham hock and beans was a staple of 1970s kitchens, a dish that combined thrift, flavor, and enduring comfort in a single pot. Meaty ham hocks simmered slowly with dried beans, onions, carrots, and a touch of seasoning, creating a rich, smoky broth that nourished both body and spirit. It was a dish born from necessity, stretching inexpensive cuts of meat and pantry staples into a hearty meal that could feed an entire family after long autumn days spent on the farm or in the garden. The magic of ham hock and beans lay in its slow-cooked depth of flavor. Dried beans softened and absorbed the smoky richness of the ham, while onions and carrots added sweetness and texture, producing a stew that felt wholesome and satisfying with minimal fuss. Simple seasonings like salt, pepper, and a bay leaf highlighted the natural flavors rather than masking them, making the dish both economical and flavorful. Families often prepared it in large batches, allowing the leftovers to warm hungry mouths the next day, proving that patience and time could transform humble ingredients into something extraordinary. Beyond practicality, ham hock and beans carried warmth, tradition, and memory. It was the kind of meal that drew families together around the table, fostering conversation and connection as the aroma filled the home. Children learned to appreciate the smoky, savory flavors, while adults valued the resourcefulness and care embedded in each simmering pot. Today, while this dish may be less common on modern weeknight tables, its legacy endures. Ham hock and beans reminds us that comfort and sustenance are not about expensive ingredients or complicated techniques. They come from patience, creativity, and the love poured into every simmering pot. It's a true testament to the enduring charm of home-cooked meals. Goulash stew, the hearty, rustic favorite. Goulash stew was a beloved 1970s autumn dish, bringing together simple ingredients to create a meal both filling and flavorful. Ground beef or stew meat combined with onions, bell peppers, tomatoes, and paprika simmered slowly in a rich, savory broth, often served over egg noodles or rice. Its charm lay in its simplicity and versatility. Cheap cuts of meat and pantry staples transformed into a deeply satisfying stew that could feed a hungry family with minimal effort. The beauty of goulash stew was in its balance of flavor and frugality. Paprika and other seasonings elevated humble ingredients, while vegetables and noodles stretched the meal further, creating a one-pot comfort dish that warmed both the body and the heart. Families could prepare it on a busy evening, letting it bubble on the stove while chores were completed, filling the kitchen with the inviting aroma of home-cooked goodness. It was dependable, forgiving, and perfectly suited to the slower pace of 1970s kitchens. Beyond practicality, goulash stew carried a sense of family and nostalgia. It was a dish children grew up with, enjoying its hearty warmth, while adults appreciated the ease of preparation and the way it brought everyone together at the table. The bubbling pot symbolized care, resourcefulness, and the satisfaction of turning simple ingredients into something special. Today, while it may not appear on many modern menus, goulash stew remains a testament to the ingenuity and heart of home cooks. It reminds us that comfort doesn't require fuss or extravagance. and that the most enduring meals are often those that nourish both body and soul with humble ingredients and a bit of care. Pot roast with root vegetables, the timeless comfort classic. Pot roast with root vegetables was a cornerstone of 1970s autumn kitchens, a dish that combined simplicity, heartiness, and a sense of occasion in every simmering pot. A modest cut of beef, often chuck or round, slowly braised until tender, mingled with carrots, potatoes, parsnips, and onions, creating a rich, savory aroma that filled the house and beckoned the family to the table. It wasn't flashy, but it was dependable. A meal that could feed a crowd, warm the soul, and make a cool autumn evening feel cozy and complete. The beauty of this dish lay in its practicality and patience. Cheaper cuts of meat transformed under hours of slow cooking into fork-tender perfection, while root vegetables absorbed the flavors of the beef and broth, adding sweetness and substance. Seasonings were straightforward. Salt, pepper, perhaps a bay leaf or a sprig of thyme, letting the natural richness of the meat and vegetables shine. Families often prepared it in a single pot, letting it braise gently while chores or homework were done, a ritual that brought both warmth and satisfaction to the household. Beyond sustenance, pot roast with root vegetables carried memories and connection. It was a dish that symbolized care, resourcefulness, and togetherness. Children eagerly gathering around the table, adults sharing stories over steaming bowls, and the aroma itself a promise of comfort and nourishment. Today, while modern kitchens might rely on slow cookers or pressure cookers, the essence remains timeless. Pot roast with root vegetables is a reminder that a simple, well-cooked meal can create lasting memories, nurture the body, and evoke the warmth of home, proving that some classics never go out of style. Corn chowder, the sweet and savory fall favorite. Corn chowder was a beloved 1970s autumn dish, offering a comforting blend of sweet corn, creamy broth, and tender vegetables that filled kitchens with warmth and nostalgia. Often made with simple ingredients, corn, potatoes, onions, celery, and a touch of milk or cream, this chowder transformed pantry staples and seasonal produce into a hearty, satisfying meal that could warm a family on chilly fall evenings. It wasn't complicated or extravagant, but its richness and gentle sweetness made every spoonful feel like a hug from the past. The magic of corn chowder lay in its simplicity and adaptability. Canned or fresh corn could be used, and leftover potatoes or root vegetables often found their way into the pot, stretching the dish to feed more mouths. Seasonings were modest: salt, pepper, and perhaps a pinch of paprika or thyme, but the slow simmering allowed the flavors to meld beautifully, creating a creamy, flavorful broth that highlighted the natural sweetness of the corn. It was a dish that cooked itself in a way, letting families focus on chores, homework, or conversation while the aromas filled the kitchen. Beyond practicality, corn chowder carried a sense of comfort and connection. Children remembered the gentle sweetness of the corn and the creamy texture, while adults appreciated its ease and the way it could turn humble ingredients into a memorable meal. It represented ingenuity and care, a reminder that frugal, simple cooking could nourish both body and spirit. Today, corn chowder may appear in trendy variations with bacon, herbs, or gourmet cream, but the essence remains timeless. It is a dish that proves comforting meals don't require fuss or expense, just patience, simple ingredients, and a little love simmering in the pot, evoking the warmth and heart of autumn kitchens from decades past. Chicken pot pie soup, the cozy twist on a classic. Chicken pot pie soup was a clever 1970s spin on the beloved comfort dish, transforming the rich flavors of a traditional pot pie into a warm, spoonable stew perfect for crisp autumn evenings. Tender chunks of chicken simmered with carrots, peas, and onions in a savory broth, while small pillows of biscuit dough or dumplings floated atop, absorbing the flavor and adding a hearty, filling touch. It was practical, satisfying, and slightly playful, a way to enjoy the familiar taste of chicken pot pie without the labor of rolling pastry and assembling a full pie. This soup thrived on frugality and convenience. Leftover chicken or inexpensive cuts could be used, pantry staples stretched the meal, and the one-pot method allowed busy families to prepare a nourishing dinner with minimal effort. Seasonings were modest, often just salt, pepper, and a bay leaf or two, letting the natural flavors shine. While it simmered gently on the stove, the aromas filled the home, promising warmth and comfort and drawing family members to the table. Beyond practicality, chicken pot pie soup carried memories and emotional resonance. It was a dish that symbolized care and homey indulgence, perfect for family gatherings or quick weeknight dinners. Children loved the fluffy dumplings bobbing in the savory broth, while adults appreciated the resourcefulness and comforting familiarity it offered. Today, modern cooks may adapt it with fresh herbs, puff pastry, or slow cookers, but its heart remains unchanged. Chicken pot pie soup proves that comfort food doesn't have to be complicated, and that with simple ingredients and a little patience, a humble soup can evoke nostalgia, warmth, and the enduring charm of a home-cooked meal. Stuffed bell peppers stew, the home-style comfort dish. Stuffed bell peppers stew was a 1970s kitchen favorite, offering the familiar flavors of traditional stuffed peppers in a hearty, easy-to-serve stew. Ground beef or pork mixed with rice and seasonings simmered with bell peppers, tomatoes, and onions in a rich, savory broth, creating a dish that was both filling and comforting. It transformed the labor-intensive stuffed pepper into a practical one-pot meal that could feed a family without hours of preparation, making it ideal for busy autumn evenings. The charm of this stew lay in its simplicity and versatility. Inexpensive ingredients were elevated through slow simmering, allowing the flavors of meat, rice, and vegetables to meld beautifully. Seasonings were modest: salt, pepper, paprika, and perhaps a touch of garlic, highlighting the natural sweetness of the bell peppers and the savory richness of the meat. Families could prepare it on the stovetop or in a slow cooker, letting it bubble gently while chores were done, filling the home with an aroma that signaled warmth and nourishment. Beyond practicality, stuffed bell peppers stew carried tradition and memory. Children enjoyed the tender peppers and flavorful meat, while adults appreciated the frugal ingenuity and the way it brought the family together around the table. The stew offered both comfort and sustenance, a reminder that home cooking could turn humble ingredients into something satisfying and memorable. Today, while modern kitchens might offer frozen variations or shortcut recipes, the essence of stuffed bell peppers stew endures. It is a testament to resourcefulness, care, and the comforting power of a home-cooked meal, proving that sometimes the simplest adaptations of classic dishes create the most enduring flavors and memories. Rabbit stew, the rustic autumn classic. Rabbit stew was a humble yet hearty dish that found its place on many 1970s tables, particularly in rural homes where frugality and resourcefulness were paramount. Tender rabbit meat, often from backyard or farm-raised sources, simmered slowly with root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and onions, creating a savory, aromatic broth that filled the kitchen with warmth. Its flavor was earthy and satisfying, offering a comforting alternative to more common meats while turning simple ingredients into a nourishing, family-friendly meal. The appeal of rabbit stew lay in its economy and adaptability. Cheaper cuts of rabbit, combined with pantry staples and seasonal vegetables, allowed families to stretch their groceries without sacrificing flavor or nutrition. Slow simmering enhanced the tenderness of the meat and allowed the vegetables to absorb the rich, meaty broth, producing a stew that was both hearty and wholesome. Seasonings were minimal: salt, pepper, and perhaps a bay leaf, letting the natural flavors of the meat and vegetables shine while emphasizing the home-style character of the dish. Beyond practicality, rabbit stew carried tradition and memory. For families who grew up hunting or raising rabbits, it was a dish tied to both sustenance and skill, a meal that symbolized care, patience, and connection to the land. Children learned to appreciate its earthy flavors, while adults treasured the ingenuity required to make a simple stew satisfying and substantial. Today, rabbit stew is rarely seen on modern tables, but it remains a testament to frugality, comfort, and home-cooked creativity. It reminds us that some of the most memorable meals are rooted in simplicity, patience, and the careful use of what's available. An enduring autumn classic that warms both body and soul. Salisbury steak and gravy, the hearty home classic. Salisbury steak and gravy was a staple of 1970s kitchens, a dish that combined simplicity, flavor, and comforting familiarity in a single plate. Ground beef shaped into tender patties simmered in a rich, savory brown gravy made from onions, broth, and a touch of seasoning, often served alongside mashed potatoes or buttered noodles. It was the kind of meal that filled a house with a homely aroma, promising warmth and satisfaction after a long autumn day. The beauty of Salisbury steak lay in its practicality and affordability. Ground beef was a cost-effective choice, while pantry staples and minimal seasonings, salt, pepper, and a dash of Worcestershire sauce, elevated the dish without adding expense. Families could prepare it on a stovetop or in the oven, letting the patties cook gently in the gravy while attending to other chores, creating a meal that was both convenient and hearty. It was a dish that stretched ingredients to feed hungry mouths while still delivering rich flavor and comfort. Beyond its practicality, Salisbury steak and gravy carried memories and connection. Children eagerly anticipated the tender, gravy-covered patties, while adults appreciated the care and effort that turned simple ingredients into a satisfying family dinner. The dish symbolized homey ingenuity, balancing flavor, nutrition, and economy in a way that defined much of 1970s home cooking. Today, while modern kitchens may favor faster or pre-packaged versions, the essence of Salisbury steak endures. It reminds us that comfort food is often about simplicity, patience, and care, proving that a humble plate of ground beef and gravy can evoke nostalgia, warmth, and the enduring charm of home-cooked meals. Cabbage and sausage skillet, the rustic one-pan favorite. Cabbage and sausage skillet was a beloved 1970s autumn dish, celebrated for its simplicity, heartiness, and the ease of cooking everything in a single pan. Thick slices of smoked or fresh sausage sizzled alongside tender cabbage, onions, and sometimes potatoes, absorbing the savory flavors while creating a meal that was as fragrant as it was satisfying. This one-pan wonder was perfect for weeknight dinners, offering a wholesome, filling dish without the fuss of multiple pots and pans. The appeal of cabbage and sausage skillet lay in its practicality and frugality. Affordable ingredients, cabbage, sausage, onions, and basic seasonings stretched far, turning humble components into a flavorful, nutritious meal. Seasoned simply with salt, pepper, and perhaps a touch of paprika or caraway, the dish allowed the natural sweetness of the cabbage and the smoky richness of the sausage to shine. Families could prepare it quickly on a stovetop, letting it cook while chores were done, filling the kitchen with aromas that promised warmth and comfort. Beyond convenience, this dish carried memories and a sense of home. Children loved the tender, flavorful cabbage and hearty sausage, while adults appreciated its efficiency and satisfying taste. It was a meal that brought families together at the table, offering nourishment and comfort while reinforcing the value of resourcefulness and thoughtful cooking. Today, cabbage and sausage skillet may seem modest compared to modern, elaborate recipes, but its essence endures. It reminds us that simple, well-prepared ingredients can create a memorable and comforting meal, proving that sometimes the most satisfying dishes are those rooted in tradition, practicality, and a little bit of home-style ingenuity. Navy bean soup, the humble autumn classic. Navy bean soup was a staple of 1970s kitchens, cherished for its simplicity, heartiness, and the way it turned humble ingredients into a nourishing meal. Dried navy beans simmered slowly with ham or salt pork, onions, carrots, and celery, producing a thick, flavorful broth that filled the home with the warm aroma of comfort and sustenance. It was a dish born from thrift and practicality, capable of feeding a hungry family with pantry staples and inexpensive cuts of meat. The beauty of navy bean soup lay in its resourcefulness. Beans, a cheap and shelf-stable ingredient, absorbed the smoky richness of ham or pork while softening into creamy perfection. Root vegetables added texture, sweetness, and substance, stretching the meal even further. Seasonings were modest: salt, pepper, and perhaps a bay leaf. But the long, slow simmer allowed the flavors to meld into a comforting, hearty dish that warmed both body and spirit. Families often prepared it in large batches, knowing leftovers would taste even better the next day, making it ideal for busy autumn weeks. Beyond practicality, navy bean soup carried tradition and memory. It was a dish that connected generations, a familiar smell signaling family gatherings, and the care poured into home-cooked meals. Children grew up with its comforting flavor, while adults appreciated the ingenuity and thrift that went into making a simple soup satisfying and filling. Today, navy bean soup may not appear on many modern tables, yet it endures as a testament to frugality, comfort, and home-cooked care. It reminds us that the simplest ingredients, when treated with patience and thought, can create a meal that nourishes both body and soul, embodying the warmth and heart of autumn kitchens past. Potato pancakes with stew, the hearty comfort duo. Potato pancakes with stew was a beloved 1970s autumn pairing, combining crispy, golden pancakes with a savory, slow-cooked stew to create a meal that was both satisfying and comforting. The potato pancakes, made from grated potatoes, onions, and a touch of flour or egg, offered a crispy exterior with a tender, flavorful interior, perfect for soaking up the rich, savory juices of a beef, pork, or chicken stew. This combination transformed humble, inexpensive ingredients into a hearty dinner that could feed a family with minimal expense but maximum satisfaction. The charm of this duo lay in its practicality and versatility. Leftover potatoes could be grated into pancakes, and the stew could be made with inexpensive cuts of meat, seasonal vegetables, and pantry staples, simmering slowly until tender and flavorful. Seasonings were modest: salt, pepper, and perhaps a touch of paprika or herbs. But the slow melding of flavors created a rich, comforting dish that warmed both body and spirit. Families could prepare the stew in advance, letting it bubble gently while pancakes were fried fresh, filling the home with aromas that beckoned everyone to the table. Beyond sustenance, potato pancakes with stew carried warmth and nostalgia. It was a dish that brought families together, where the sizzling of pancakes and the bubbling of stew created a sense of home and togetherness. Children loved the crispy, savory pancakes paired with rich, hearty stew, while adults appreciated the resourcefulness and satisfying nature of the meal. Today, while it may seem quaint compared to modern convenience foods, potato pancakes with stew remains a testament to home-cooked ingenuity. It reminds us that with simple ingredients, a bit of patience, and a touch of care, humble dishes can create enduring memories, warmth, and comfort, true hallmarks of autumn dining in decades past. Macaroni and tomato soup, the simple, cozy classic. Macaroni and tomato soup was a 1970s autumn favorite, cherished for its simplicity, warmth, and ability to turn pantry staples into a comforting meal. Elbow macaroni simmered in a tomato-based broth with onions, carrots, and a touch of seasoning, creating a dish that was both hearty and satisfying. This humble soup was a practical solution for busy families, stretching inexpensive ingredients into a filling dinner while filling the home with the inviting aroma of home cooking. The beauty of macaroni and tomato soup lay in its adaptability and frugality. Canned or fresh tomatoes worked equally well, and leftover pasta could be added to extend the meal. Seasonings were modest: salt, pepper, and sometimes a pinch of sugar or dried herbs, allowing the natural sweetness of the tomatoes and the soft, comforting texture of the macaroni to shine. Families could prepare it quickly on the stovetop, making it ideal for weeknight dinners while children did homework or parents finished chores. Beyond practicality, this soup carried memories and nostalgia. Children remembered its warm, tomatoey flavor and tender pasta, while adults valued its ease, economy, and the way it brought the family together at the table. It was a dish that taught resourcefulness, showing that even simple ingredients could produce a satisfying and memorable meal. Today, macaroni and tomato soup may seem quaint next to modern convenience foods or trendy comfort recipes, but its charm endures. It serves as a reminder that home-cooked meals don't need to be complicated to be memorable, and that the simplest combinations, pasta, tomatoes, and a little care, can create enduring warmth, flavor, and connection in the heart of the kitchen. Venison chili, the hearty, rustic favorite. Venison chili was a 1970s autumn staple in rural households, cherished for its robust flavor, frugality, and ability to warm both body and soul on crisp fall days. Lean venison, often sourced from backyard hunting or local game, was browned and simmered with onions, garlic, tomatoes, beans, and a blend of spices, producing a hearty, smoky chili that was deeply satisfying. This dish turned humble, inexpensive ingredients into a filling, protein-rich meal that could feed a family after long days of work or outdoor activity. The magic of venison chili lay in its resourcefulness and depth of flavor. Venison, being lean, absorbed the richness of tomatoes and spices beautifully, while beans and vegetables stretched the dish to feed more mouths. Seasonings were simple yet effective: chili powder, cumin, salt, and pepper, allowing the natural flavors of the meat and vegetables to shine. Slow simmering was key, letting the ingredients meld into a thick, savory stew that filled the kitchen with enticing aromas, inviting everyone to gather at the table. Beyond practicality, venison chili carried tradition and memory. Families who hunted together often took pride in turning their catch into a nourishing meal, teaching children both culinary skills and the value of resourcefulness. The dish was a comfort food that fostered connection, warmth, and a sense of accomplishment, proving that humble ingredients could create extraordinary results when treated with care. Today, venison chili may be less common on modern menus, but it remains a testament to ingenuity, frugality, and home-cooked comfort. It reminds us that the best meals often come from patience, creativity, and simple ingredients, offering both warmth and lasting memories, a true autumn classic from the kitchens of the past. Split pea soup with ham, the hearty autumn staple. Split pea soup with ham was a quintessential 1970s autumn dish, cherished for its simplicity, frugality, and comforting warmth. Dried split peas simmered slowly with smoky ham, onions, carrots, and celery, creating a thick, creamy soup that nourished both body and soul. It was a practical way to stretch leftover ham or inexpensive cuts of meat while transforming humble pantry staples into a filling, wholesome meal that could feed an entire family. The beauty of split pea soup with ham lay in its patience and simplicity. The peas softened gradually, absorbing the smoky richness of the ham, while the vegetables added sweetness, texture, and heartiness. Seasonings were minimal, just salt, pepper, and perhaps a bay leaf, but the long, slow simmer allowed the flavors to meld into a deeply satisfying, savory soup. Families often prepared it in large batches, knowing the flavors would deepen over time, making leftovers even more irresistible the next day. Beyond practicality, this soup carried warmth and nostalgia. Children remembered its creamy texture and smoky flavor, while adults appreciated the frugality and resourcefulness it embodied. It was a dish that brought families together at the table, offering comfort and sustenance while teaching lessons about thrift, patience, and care in the kitchen. Today, split pea soup with ham may appear less frequently on weeknight menus, yet its legacy endures. It is a reminder that some of the most memorable meals come from simple ingredients, slow cooking, and thoughtful preparation. This classic autumn soup proves that comfort, flavor, and warmth do not require extravagance, just patience, care, and a little touch of home-cooked love. Baked oxtail stew, the rich, slow-cooked classic. Baked oxtail stew was a hearty 1970s autumn favorite, celebrated for its deep, savory flavor and the way it turned humble ingredients into a luxurious, warming meal. Oxtails, often considered an inexpensive cut, were slow-cooked with onions, carrots, celery, and sometimes potatoes, allowing the meat to become tender while releasing rich gelatin into the broth. The result was a thick, flavorful stew that filled the kitchen with an irresistible aroma, promising comfort and satisfaction with every spoonful. The magic of baked oxtail stew lay in its patience and resourcefulness. Oxtails required slow cooking, either baked in the oven or simmered on the stovetop, transforming a tough cut into melt-in-your-mouth tenderness. Simple seasonings such as salt, pepper, and bay leaves enhanced the natural richness of the meat, while vegetables added substance and sweetness. Families often prepared it for special autumn dinners, letting it cook while tending to chores, homework, or household tasks, creating a meal that felt indulgent yet grounded in practicality. Beyond sustenance, baked oxtail stew carried tradition and connection. It was a dish that symbolized care and effort, where children learned to appreciate deep, slow-cooked flavors, and adults valued the ingenuity required to make a humble cut shine. The stew evoked memories of family gatherings, laughter around the table, and the warmth that comes from a meal made with patience and love. Today, baked oxtail stew is less common on everyday menus, but it remains a testament to frugality, flavor, and comfort. It reminds us that with time, care, and simple ingredients, even the most modest cuts can produce an unforgettable, warming dish, a true autumn classic that nourishes both body and soul. Baked apples with cinnamon and stew. Drizzle, the sweet and savory autumn treat. Baked apples with cinnamon and stew drizzle was a 1970s fall favorite, offering a clever twist that combined the natural sweetness of fruit with the savory richness of a hearty stew. Tart apples were cored and filled or sprinkled with cinnamon, brown sugar, and sometimes a touch of butter, then baked until tender and fragrant. Once cooked, a spoonful of warm stew or its juices could be drizzled over the apples, creating a surprising but comforting marriage of sweet and savory that delighted family tables and made autumn dinners feel special. The charm of this dish lay in its simplicity and ingenuity. Apples, a readily available and inexpensive fruit, paired with pantry staples like cinnamon and sugar, were elevated into a memorable dessert, or even a side, when complemented by the meaty, savory notes of a stew. It showcased the resourcefulness of 1970s home cooks, turning what might have been ordinary ingredients into something both comforting and playful. The slow baking released the apple's natural juices, blending perfectly with the aromatic cinnamon and savory drizzle to create a dish that was warm, fragrant, and satisfying. Beyond flavor, baked apples with cinnamon and stew. Drizzle carried a sense of home and memory. Children were drawn to the sweet aroma and soft texture, while adults appreciated the creativity and heart behind the combination. It was a dish that demonstrated both thrift and imagination, proving that with a little care and experimentation, humble ingredients could become a highlight of the family meal. Today, this dish may seem unusual to modern palates, but it embodies the spirit of 1970s autumn cooking. Inventive, comforting, and resourceful. It reminds us that food can surprise and delight, bridging the gap between sweet and savory while keeping the warmth and connection of home-cooked meals alive. Beef stew with dumplings, the quintessential autumn comfort. Beef stew with dumplings was a beloved 1970s autumn dish, offering a hearty, warming meal that satisfied both stomachs and souls. Tender chunks of beef simmered slowly with root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and onions, creating a rich, savory broth that was thick with flavor and comfort. On top, soft dumplings, light, pillowy, and infused with a hint of butter, cooked gently in the stew, soaking up the meaty goodness and adding a satisfying texture that made each bite a delight. The magic of this dish lay in its simplicity and patience. Affordable cuts of beef became melt-in-your-mouth tender after long, slow cooking, while vegetables absorbed the richness of the broth, stretching the meal to feed entire families. Seasonings were modest, salt, pepper, and perhaps a bay leaf or thyme, But the combination of slow-cooked meat, vegetables, and dumplings created a depth of flavor that felt indulgent without extravagance. Families could prepare it in a single pot, letting it simmer while attending to chores, homework, or evening routines, filling the kitchen with the irresistible aroma of autumn comfort. Beyond practicality, beef stew with dumplings carried nostalgia and warmth. Children remembered the tender dumplings and savory meat, while adults appreciated the care, patience, and resourcefulness required to transform simple ingredients into a satisfying meal. It was a dish that symbolized family, resilience, and the comforting power of home cooking during chilly fall evenings. Today, while beef stew may appear in countless modern variations, the classic version with dumplings remains a testament to timeless flavor, heart, and ingenuity. It reminds us that a well-made, simple stew can nourish both body and spirit, embodying the enduring charm of autumn kitchens from decades past. Turkey and rice-bake soup, the cozy leftover reinvention. Turkey and rice-bake soup was a clever 1970s autumn adaptation, transforming the leftovers from Sunday turkey dinners into a warm, satisfying soup perfect for chilly evenings. Tender pieces of turkey mingled with cooked rice, onions, carrots, and celery in a savory broth, often enriched with a touch of butter or cream, creating a comforting, hearty meal that stretched both flavor and leftovers. It was a practical dish, allowing families to make the most of holiday or weekend roasts while offering a nourishing, easy-to-prepare dinner during busy weekdays. The charm of turkey and rice-bake soup lay in its resourcefulness and simplicity. Leftover turkey, sometimes from a roasted or baked bird, provided ample protein, while pantry staples and seasonal vegetables added heartiness without breaking the budget. Seasonings were modest: salt, pepper, and occasionally parsley or thyme. But the slow melding of flavors transformed simple ingredients into a rich, satisfying soup. Families could prepare it in a single pot, simmering gently while attending to chores or homework, filling the home with an aroma that was both inviting and familiar. Beyond practicality, the soup carried nostalgia and connection. Children loved the tender turkey pieces and soft, comforting rice, while adults appreciated the ingenuity of turning leftovers into a dish that felt entirely new. It was a meal that encouraged family togetherness, reinforced frugality, and celebrated the creativity of home cooks who could transform modest ingredients into memorable autumn dinners. Today, turkey and rice-bake soup may appear quaint compared to modern convenience meals, but it endures as a testament to ingenuity, care, and comfort. It reminds us that with simple ingredients, thoughtful preparation, and a touch of warmth, leftovers can be elevated into nourishing, satisfying meals that evoke both nostalgia and the enduring charm of home-cooked autumn fare. Sweet potato hash stew, the hearty, cozy autumn favorite. Sweet potato hash stew was a 1970s autumn kitchen staple, celebrated for its warmth, heartiness, and ability to turn simple, affordable ingredients into a satisfying family meal. Cubes of sweet potato combined with onions, bell peppers, and sometimes leftover meats or sausage simmered in a lightly seasoned broth, creating a stew that was both sweet and savory. The natural sweetness of the potatoes balanced the richness of the meat and the aromatics, resulting in a dish that filled the home with the inviting scent of fall and comfort. The appeal of sweet potato hash stew lay in its practicality and versatility. Sweet potatoes, a budget-friendly and nutritious staple, stretched far while adding depth of flavor, while additional vegetables and bits of meat could vary depending on what was on hand. Seasonings were simple: salt, pepper, paprika, and occasionally a hint of thyme, but slow simmering allowed the flavors to meld beautifully, producing a stew that was hearty, satisfying, and nourishing. Families could prepare it in a single pot, letting it bubble gently while attending to chores, homework, or evening routines. Beyond practicality, the stew carried memories and warmth. Children adored the tender, naturally sweet cubes of potato paired with savory morsels, while adults appreciated its frugality, ease, and comforting flavors. It was a dish that brought families together at the table, showcasing the ingenuity of home cooks who could transform basic ingredients into a memorable, satisfying autumn meal. Today, sweet potato hash stew may feel quaint compared to modern convenience dishes, but it remains a testament to simplicity, resourcefulness, and home-cooked care. It reminds us that with modest ingredients, thoughtful preparation, and a touch of creativity, humble autumn vegetables can become a dish that warms both body and spirit, a true classic from kitchens of the past. Cottage cheese casserole with broth, the cozy, savory comfort. Cottage cheese casserole with broth was a 1970s autumn favorite, a humble yet satisfying dish that turned simple ingredients into a warm, comforting meal. Creamy cottage cheese mixed with eggs, breadcrumbs, or cooked grains formed a soft, rich base, while a light, savory broth, often made from leftover meats or vegetables, kept the casserole moist and flavorful as it baked. This combination created a dish that was both nourishing and filling, perfect for family dinners during the cooler months when hearty comfort was in demand. The charm of this casserole lay in its practicality and adaptability. Cottage cheese provided protein and richness, while pantry staples and leftover ingredients stretched the dish to feed a family. Seasonings were modest: salt, pepper, and perhaps a touch of herbs, but the slow baking allowed the flavors to meld, creating a dish that was savory, creamy, and comforting all at once. Families could prepare it in a single dish, letting it bake while attending to chores, homework, or evening routines, filling the kitchen with an inviting aroma of warmth and home. Beyond practicality, cottage cheese casserole with broth carried nostalgia and a sense of home. Children remembered the soft, creamy texture, while adults appreciated the frugality and ingenuity that turned modest ingredients into a satisfying, elegant meal. It was a dish that represented care, creativity, and the ability to make the most of what was on hand. Today, this casserole may seem quaint compared to modern convenience foods, but it remains a testament to the resourcefulness and comforting simplicity of 1970s home cooking. It reminds us that with basic ingredients, a touch of patience, and some imagination, even the humblest casserole can become a memorable, nourishing, and heartwarming autumn meal. Hog maw and chitterlings stew, the bold, rustic classic. Hog maw and chitterling stew was a staple in many 1970s autumn kitchens, particularly in communities with strong Southern or Pennsylvania Dutch culinary traditions. This hearty, rustic dish combined hog maw, the pig's stomach, and chitterlings, simmered slowly with onions, garlic, and sometimes potatoes or cabbage, creating a rich, flavorful stew that filled the home with a deeply comforting aroma. It was a dish born of resourcefulness, turning humble, inexpensive ingredients into a meal that was both nourishing and satisfying, perfect for cold autumn evenings. The appeal of hog maw and chitterling stew lay in its thrift and depth of flavor. The slow cooking process softened the tougher cuts, allowing the meats to absorb seasoning while infusing the broth with a smoky, meaty richness. Modest seasonings, salt, pepper, perhaps a hint of paprika or vinegar, enhanced the natural flavors without overpowering them. Families could prepare it in a single pot, letting it simmer while attending to chores, creating a meal that offered both warmth and sustenance with minimal fuss. Beyond practicality, this stew carried cultural heritage and nostalgia. It was a dish that connected generations, teaching children about traditional cooking methods and the value of using every part of the animal. Adults appreciated the ingenuity and care required to make the dish tender, flavorful, and approachable, while its aroma and taste evoked memories of family gatherings and shared meals. Today, hog maw and chitterling stew may seem bold or unfamiliar to modern palates, but it endures as a testament to frugality, tradition, and comfort. It reminds us that resourcefulness and patience can transform humble ingredients into a dish full of flavor, warmth, and connection, a true emblem of autumn kitchens from decades past. Salmon croquettes soup, the comforting fish twist. Salmon croquette soup was a clever 1970s autumn dish, transforming the familiar pan-fried fish cakes into a warm, savory soup perfect for cooler evenings. Flaked salmon, often from canned or leftover fish, was combined with breadcrumbs, onions, and herbs to form small croquettes, which were gently poached in a light, flavorful broth with potatoes, carrots, and sometimes celery. The result was a comforting, protein-rich soup that combined the crisp, savory essence of croquettes with the soothing warmth of a hearty broth, creating a dish that nourished both body and spirit. The charm of salmon croquettes soup lay in its ingenuity and frugality. Using canned or leftover salmon stretched a modest protein source, while vegetables and simple seasonings, salt, pepper, and perhaps a touch of dill or parsley, added heartiness and flavor. The croquettes softened slightly in the simmering broth, absorbing the savory liquid while maintaining a tender texture, offering a satisfying contrast that made each bite rich and comforting. Families could prepare it in a single pot, allowing the flavors to meld while tending to daily chores, filling the home with an inviting, homey aroma. Beyond practicality, the soup carried warmth and nostalgia. Children remembered the tender, flavorful croquettes mingling with vegetables, while adults appreciated the resourcefulness that turned humble ingredients into a special, comforting meal. It was a dish that demonstrated care, creativity, and the ability to elevate simple pantry staples into something memorable and satisfying. Today, salmon croquette soup may feel unusual compared to modern soups, but it endures as a testament to inventive, home-cooked comfort. It reminds us that with a little imagination, leftover or humble ingredients can become a nourishing, flavorful, and heartwarming dish, perfect for autumn evenings and cherished family memories. Pork chops with cream of mushroom gravy, stew, the hearty autumn classic. Pork chops with cream of mushroom gravy. Stew was a beloved 1970s autumn dish, offering rich flavors and a cozy, comforting presence at the family table. Tender pork chops were browned and then simmered slowly in a creamy mushroom gravy, often with onions, carrots, and potatoes, until the meat absorbed the savory goodness and the vegetables became melt-in-your-mouth tender. The result was a stew that combined the elegance of a cream-based sauce with the rustic heartiness of a home-cooked one-pot meal, filling kitchens with the warm, enticing aroma of autumn comfort. The charm of the stew lay in its simplicity and frugality. Affordable pork chops were transformed through slow cooking and careful seasoning, salt, pepper, garlic, and a touch of thyme, into a dish that felt indulgent yet approachable. Cream of mushroom soup, a pantry staple of the era, provided a rich base that allowed the flavors to meld beautifully, while vegetables added texture, nutrition, and heartiness. Families could prepare it in a single pot, letting it simmer while attending to chores, homework, or evening routines, producing a meal that was both practical and satisfying. Beyond practicality, pork chops with cream of mushroom gravy, stew carried nostalgia and warmth. Children loved the tender pork and creamy, flavorful gravy, while adults appreciated the care, resourcefulness, and homey comfort it represented. The dish evoked memories of family dinners, shared laughter, and the satisfaction of a hearty meal on a crisp autumn evening. Today, while cream of soup-based dishes may be less common in modern kitchens, this stew remains a testament to the ingenuity, simplicity, and comforting flavors of 1970s home cooking. It reminds us that with humble ingredients, patience, and care, a one-pot meal can become a memorable and heartwarming autumn classic. And there you have it, 30 hearty soups and stews that kept families and farmers warm through long autumn days. If these recipes brought back memories or inspired you to try something new, don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe to join us on more nostalgic culinary journeys, and let us know in the comments which cozy dish you'd love to bring back to your table. And there you have it, 30 hearty soups and stews that kept families and farmers warm through long autumn days. If these recipes brought back memories or inspired you to try something new, don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe to join us on more nostalgic culinary journeys, and let us know in the comments which cozy dish you'd love to bring back to your table.